To get started, turn the computer on. Now type in the word load and press the Enter key. Computer responds with an instruction to press the play button.
We started one step at a time making little interfaces for drum machines to run in time with sequencers. And everybody said, no one will ever want a drum machine to play with a sequencer. That's absurd.
He now types instructions into the computer about how it should juggle the notes it has remembered and replay them in a semi-random fashion, speeding some up, slowing others down.
2 years ago, a friend of mine asked me to sing some MC rhymes. The rhyme was there for many went this way. The rhyme was there for many went this way. 2 years ago, a friend of mine asked me to sing some MC rhymes. The rhyme was there for many went this way. The rhyme was there for many went this way.
Now you've got the idea. Now you've got the idea. Now you've got the idea.
Let's do it.
There's nothing to it. There's nothing to it. There's nothing to it. There's nothing to it.
2 years ago, a friend of mine asked me to sing some MC rhymes. The rhyme was there for many went this way. The rhyme was there for many went this way. 2 years ago, a friend of mine asked me to sing some MC rhymes. The rhyme was there for many went this way. The rhyme was there for many went this way.
Right, how you doing all? Alright, what a day, thank you. What a day that was. Hold on, I don't know where I'm going now. I've got to put the sat nav on, hold on. Right, I'm back with you now. Yeah, what a day. It is 5:30. I've only just left that place 5 minutes ago. That was a hard day, you know. There were 2 ceilings, they weren't big ceilings, wouldn't say there was anything out of the ordinary. But my God, they took some covering, they really did. I mean, you saw previously on obviously I put it to the beginning of this, where I started to scrape the Artex off. Now I'm not sure if that was down to, I had a brand new scraper blade in my big white scraper, which obviously was really sharp, and it seemed to just get underneath the paint, between the silk paint and the Artex, and then it started peeling off like sheets. So I'm thinking, had that blade not been as sharp as it was, I might have just knocked the heads off like I usually would, and I would have been none the wiser that that was easily going to come off. So it's probably done me a favour there. But what it did do was it took it from being a very low suction background, obviously on top of the silk paint. What's happening on? course, took all that paint off, it leaves you with a really high suction background, which is the Artex. So that had, it looks fucking awful. So that then had 3 coats of PVA, that Artex, and I left it for a while. The second room, thank God, was okay. It just scraped off like normal Artex. But having that bed in the room and that bloody fan light, it sticks so much time on. You just can't get no sweeping going. You can't get across. Stop, start, especially when you walk on a bed, because you've got that mattress under your feet. And although you cover the mattress, you know, every time you step on it, it's bedding down and it's pulling your dust sheet back off again. So, and you're aware of that. It's a horrible thing, standing on someone else's mattress trying to plaster. But they just really took some skim, them ceilings. They each of them had 3 coats really. It was the first good coat, second fairly good coat, and then a little top off coat. And ceilings are all over the place. But you get that with Artex, and that estate, I'd say that's probably 20 years old, maybe, that estate. And you do notice it with them, where they've just Artex them estates, them houses. Obviously there's no plaster underneath them boards. Them boards are everywhere. So you've really got to lay it on thick to try and get any sort of level. So yeah, that was hard work actually. I mean, that one with a fan in it and with a bed there, where it started sucking in so quickly, especially after the second coat, it's still pulling in fairly quick. Have you ever been in the middle of a ceiling and you think to yourself, I could walk out the door now, I don't need this. This is beating me, I'm defeated. I felt like just giving up. I felt like saying, do you know what, I'm going to go and drive for Ocado or Tesco's. I don't need this shit anymore. But you don't, do you? But that's what your mind wants to do. You think, wouldn't it be lovely just to chuck all these tools down, get in the van and go home? Because you're at the middle of that ceiling and it's beating you, and you know you haven't got time for anything. You can't go and sit in the van, you can't go and get your head together. You can't have a cup of tea, you've just got to keep going and going and going, and that's how that ceiling was really. Of course, in the end you get control of it, but if you're not so experienced, and that could be like one of your first private jobs, one of them ceilings would kill you. You'd walk out the door, you'd never want to do it again. But experience tells you, just keep going. So, you know, add another mix for the third coat, another nice wet mix, straight across. And got it in the end, but that was hard. And then that ceiling was done by about 2 o'clock actually. I just had a couple of times to polish it. So at 2 o'clock, like, to then start skimming that second ceiling. And that was the same actually, although the suction was okay on it. That needed 3 coats, all over the place. And it had coving on it. So you've got to be aware of that coving line, and some of it went down to nothing, some of it went out a bit. So you're fighting everything on one of them ceilings. Totally. So anyway, I didn't film a lot of it because I just didn't have time. I got in there at 8, I walked out there at 5:30, and I can promise you I have not stopped. I've had a few mouthfuls of tea as I'm going, but I've not stopped today. So I didn't have time to start setting up cameras and all that lot really. So anyway, I'm back in there tomorrow. I've got one ceiling, one bedroom in there tomorrow, but it's got like a step ceiling, so it's 2 smaller ceilings. So that's tomorrow, and then Thursday I'm back in there. I've got another 2 rooms, but they're 2 tiny little rooms. I mean, you know, if they're a sheet and a half of board each, that surprised me. So that's the worst out of the way. 2 more days in there, and so I might be able to do a little bit of filming tomorrow night. So anyway, have a good evening everyone, if it is evening by the time I put this out. I'm bloody tired, aren't I? This old fat's tired. This old fart's had enough. I'm going to go home, hopefully the wife's done some dinner. If she ain't, she's going to get her back in, and I'll probably end up with black eye, and I'll see you tomorrow.